Hello, welcome back to Chapter 8, Section 3, Adding and Subtracting Rational Expressions. In this example, in this video, we're going to be focusing on the subtracting part. The steps are almost exactly the same. Actually, all the steps you learned are going to happen with this, with one extra part. Subtraction in general is the same as adding the opposite. And actually, like when we think of algebra as an entity in itself, we don't really have subtraction. We don't need it. It's redundant. So what I mean by that, and I've said this before, instead of saying 5 subtract 2, that's actually the same as 5 plus negative 2. I'll put parentheses around that so it's more obvious. When I subtract a number, I'm actually adding the opposite of that number. I'm adding the opposite of the 2 that I'm subtracting. So what I'm going to do, this is the only difference between this and what we just did with the adding. That subtraction sign means that this x plus 4 is going to become the opposite. So I'm going to have the opposite of x and the opposite of 4. And that's the first step. So let's get to work with this one. First, I'll rewrite it to where it is vertical. I think that that's sometimes easier because in that way I can go that direction and it makes a little bit more sense. Or I have a little bit more space, so I get it. 2x squared subtract 16 over x subtract 4. And I'm going to change this subtraction to an addition, but I can't just do that. I have to then find the opposite of each of these. So the opposite of like positive x, and we can call it positive x even though x could be any number, the opposite of positive x is going to be negative x, and the opposite of positive 4 is going to be negative 4. And in the denominator I have x plus 2. Now I only do that to the numerator, okay? I only do that to the numerator. I don't do it to both, because if I did it to both, what I'd have is a negative divided by negative, which is a positive, which means I actually didn't change anything. So remember, only the numerator. Now let's factor everything. And again, I'm not going to use equal signs. I'm going to use my arrows to show that there's a progression. I'm going to leave the 2x squared subtract 16 alone. Actually, to be honest, as I'm thinking this through, yeah, that'll be okay. All right. I was thinking if I should try to reduce it first, but I'm going to leave it alone. I'm only going to look at the denominators. So I got 2x squared subtract 16. I know it's got a common factor of 2, but then it doesn't factor any further than that because it's not, it wouldn't be a perfect square. It's not a difference of 2 squares. That's what I was trying to check. But x squared subtract 4 is. That's x subtract 2 times x plus 2. So I factored the denominator. For the other fraction, I still have negative x subtract 4. That stays the same. And x plus 2 doesn't factor any further than that. What I notice is that they both share in the denominator, in x plus 2, but this one has the additional x subtract 2. So to make them the same, I need to multiply x subtract 2 over x subtract 2. And remember, this is actually the number 1. This is 1. And when I multiply by 1, it doesn't change anything. Since this doesn't look like 1, I'm changing the way it looks, but I'm not changing what it actually means. Okay, so I'm going to keep up. I'm going to put this back the way it was, where everything's going to be remultiplied again, which doesn't require me to do any work. It's just x squared subtract 4. And this one, I'm going to have to do a little work here. Now you can do it FOIL if you want, or you can make a multiplication chart. I'll make a multiplication chart. So I'm going to have negative x subtract 4, x subtract 2. I get negative x squared, positive 2x, negative times negative, negative 4x, and positive 8. So all together, I'm going to get x squared, negative x squared, sorry, I had to double check that. Negative 4x plus 2x is negative 2x plus 8. And my denominator is also x squared subtract 4. It has to be, because that's the whole point of me doing the problem, to get a common denominator. Okay, and also I'm totally aware that while I'm making this video, I'm not pausing or stopping or anything. So please, hit that pause button if you need to look at it, rewind if you need to look at it again, ask questions, either in person or in the discussion, either way. So all I've done so far is I distributed that negative to the numerator, so I got that, and then I multiplied the second fraction by 1, x minus 2 over x minus 2. So now I'm going to add these two together. The denominator is still going to be x squared subtract 4. In the numerator, I've got 2x squared subtract 16 plus negative x squared subtract 2x plus 8. I'm going to add that by adding the terms that are the same. 2x squared subtract x squared is just 1x squared. Negative 2x is the next term. I don't have anything to add it to it, so I write negative 2x. And then I got negative 16 plus 8, which is going to be negative 8. Okay. I have one more thing to check. I know that I can factor x squared minus 4. I've got them right there. Okay, so I don't have to do any extra work. I know I can factor that if I need to. My question is, can I factor the top? Negative 8, what multiplies to give negative 8 and gives negative 2? And adds to give negative 2, excuse me. Okay, that I think I can factor. That's going to be x subtract 4 times x plus 2. And I know already that x squared subtract 4 was x subtract 2 times x plus 2. So it looks to me that the x plus 2's are going to reduce. So my final result here is going to be x subtract 4 over x subtract 2. And then I need to stop. Nothing else reduces in here because the x and the 4 and the x and the 2 are being added and subtracted. I can only cancel stuff, and don't say cancel, but I can only reduce stuff if it's being multiplied like these were. Why did I reduce the x plus 2 over x plus 2? Because it's being multiplied by the other terms. Okay, that's a lot of work, but really all the steps are based upon stuff that you've done before. You've covered all of this. So now you're just putting a bunch of it together. All right. The last thing, I need to identify x values for which is undefined. I need to go to the factored form. If x equals negative 2, I get 0. Sorry, let me start with this one. Sorry, let me go back to that one. If x equals positive 2, I get 0. And if x equals negative 2, I get 0. So I need to include that. X does not equal 2. And x does not equal negative 2. Either of these values will make the denominator equal 0. Okay, that's a lot of work, I know. Let's try another one while you're still thinking about it. And again, if you need a break, just pause and come back. It's all good. So we're going to start off and we're going to come up with the same idea. I'm subtracting x subtract 4. So, and one thing I can do is put parentheses around that. So now I can see that I'm actually using distribution. Or if you want to think about it, the negative with the subtraction, think of it as negative, and then that just means find the opposite of everything. So I've got 2x squared plus 64 divided by x squared subtract 64, and no, nothing's going to cancel here. And I'm going to change my subtraction to adding, and I'm going to change my x subtract 4 to negative x plus 4. So I changed the sign of the x and the negative 4. And in the denominator, I've got x plus 8. Okay, so let's factor. This one is not going to factor, so I can leave this one alone. Negative x plus 4, put parentheses around that, over x plus 8. But this one, the denominator, that's a difference of two squares. So I've got x plus 8, which is nice because that's what I have here, times x subtract 8. I need that x subtract 8 in both denominators. The x plus 8 is in both denominators, but I need the x subtract 8. Again, this is just the number 1. And I'm making it with serifs. Those little fancy things are called serifs, so that it doesn't look like I'm saying, why did you say L? Okay, so let's multiply this. This is going to become 2x squared plus 64 over, and I'll go ahead, it doesn't matter. With the last one, I remultiplied. It's just right there. I don't have to do any extra work. And the last step, if I need to go back to factoring, I know what it was already. I already had it factored. You're probably wondering why I went from here to here to here to here. It depends on, I probably didn't need to do it here. Okay, I could have just left it factored until I knew if I could reduce it. That would have been fine. I just thought that this was easier to write than that. That's the only reason. So chalk it up to being lazy. Same thing, I'm just going to be lazy. I know that this is x squared subtract 64 because that is what I have. I didn't change anything. I also know that this is x squared subtract 64 because now I have a common denominator. What I need to figure out is what's that times that. So just like last time, I got negative x plus 4 times x subtract 8. FOIL if you want. Someday I'm going to give up that fight. Negative x squared, positive 8x, positive 4x, negative 32. So this is going to be negative x squared, 4x plus 8x is 12x, subtract 32. Extend that just a little bit. Okay, so now I have everything simplified in my numerators and denominators, and I have a common denominator. I can now add these two together with my common denominator of x squared subtract 64. Let's add the x to the second power. So I've got 2x to the second power, subtract 1x to the second power. That leaves 1x to the second power. My 12x, I don't have any other, in the numerators, I'm looking here and here. I don't have any other x to the first power, so that's just plus 12x. And of course, 64 subtract 32 is 32. The only thing I have to do is I have to check to see if this can be simplified. And one thing I know is that x squared subtract 64 is factored for me right here. So do you think that either one of these could be a factor of x squared plus 12x plus 32? And I'm thinking that x plus 8 could, because 32 times 4, 8 times 4 is 32. I'm saying it backwards. 8 times 4 is 32, and I know 8 plus 4 is 12. So it turns out that my factors in the top are going to be x plus 4 times x plus 8, and in my denominator I've got x subtract 8 times x plus 8. So right here, x plus 8 over x plus 8, that's going to reduce. That's going to be eliminated. So my final simplified form is x plus 4 divided by x subtract 8, and nothing else is going to reduce for the same reason I told you earlier. The last thing I need to do is identify what's going to make it go to 0. Well, up here in the factored form, if x equals 8, I get 8 minus 8, and if x equals negative 8, I get negative 8 plus 8. Both of those are going to make the denominator be 0. So x cannot equal 8, and x cannot equal negative 8. Okay, we'll see you in the next video.